Well, thank you everyone for joining us today for our fifth and final webinar for 2025. 2025 has been an exciting year for us all, and things are just warming up for even a more exciting year ahead of us. And that's really the topic for today. So today we'll highlight some of the key changes that we're expecting to see in the industry in 2026, as well as we will cover what we as the pathology community can do to impact the future of pathology for years to come. And for this topic, we couldn't find anyone better than our guest speaker, John David Clip, who I'm honored to present today. Mr. Clip founded the Laboratory Economics in 2006. He is a nationally recognized expert on the business of laboratory medicine. His research has appeared in numerous business and trade publications, including the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, and Washington Post. John David is the former managing editor of Washington G2's Laboratory Industry Report and Diagnostic Testing and Technology Report. And today he's here to talk to us about what's in the horizon for labs in 2026. So without further ado, John David, the floor is yours. Take us through 2026.
Okay. Thank you, Ed. And so I guess the main focus of this webinar is going to be on digital pathology, but I am going to provide a short preview of what's happening with Medicare reimbursement for physician services, which covers pathology, and Medicare reimbursement for clinical lab testing under the clinical laboratory fee schedule. And I would just emphasize or note that the Medicare rates are the rates that all other payers or almost all other payers base their rates on. So United Healthcare, Aetna, all the Blues plans, Medicare Advantage plans, etc. Medicaid plans in every state base their rates on Medicare, and that's why the Medicare rates are so important because they influence every other payer's rates. So if you could move to the next slide, please. Just again, just a quick overview, starting with the Medicare physician fee schedule, which covers reimbursement for pathology services, technical and professional pathology services. So overall, on average, and it'll vary depending on your laboratory and your pathology group, but overall, on average, Medicare pathology rates will be increasing by 0.6% in 2026. So those are the final rates that were released a few weeks ago. And on average, a 0.6% increase in 2026. One note is that there had been efforts to include an inflation update, which would have increased Medicare rates for physician services, including pathology. But those efforts failed, and ultimately there was no inflation update included in the 2026 physician fee schedule. So overall, we've got a 0.6% increase for Medicare pathology rates. The all-important CPT 88305, which represents the majority of billing at most pathology labs. The global rate for 88305 will be increasing by just under 1% to a global rate of $70.14 in 2026. The professional component of 88305 is increasing by 0.4% to $35.07. And I'm talking about right now I'm talking about the national rates, not adjusted for geography. So they might be slightly different depending on what part of the country you're in. But right now I'm talking about the national rates without an adjustment for geography. So anyway, 88305 professional component will be increasing by 0.4% to $35.07 in 2026. The technical component of 88305 will be increasing by 1.3% to $35.07 also. So the Medicare rate for the professional component and the Medicare rate for the technical component for 88305 now match each other at $35.07. And then I just also wanted to highlight the highest increase that's happening is for flow cytometry. So the technical component of 88184 is increasing by and that's the technical component for the first marker in flow cytometry billing is increasing by 7.7% to $81.50. That's the highest rate increase in 2026. Also, we've mentioned that for the flow cytometry code 88185, which covers each additional marker, billing for each additional marker after that first marker, is going up by 4.8% to $23.05. Just wanted to highlight the biggest rate increases for 2026. And then moving on to the Medicare clinical lab fee schedule. So as it stands right now today, the Medicare clinical laboratory fee schedule is there are 800 codes on the Medicare clinical laboratory fee schedule that are set to decline, are scheduled to decline by up to 15% on February 1st, 2026. There was a 30-year, not a 30-year, a 30-day delay in those cuts included in the most recent budget budget bill that got passed into law a few weeks ago. So as scheduled, as of today, clinical lab fee schedule, there are 800 codes scheduled to receive up to a 15% cut, and that would be effective February 1st, 2026. And what the 30-year delay, not 30-year, 30-day delay was lobbied for by ACLA, the American Clinical Laboratory Association, and other CAP, as well as other laboratory trade organizations. They lobbied to have a 30-day delay in order to get more time to pass legislation for a longer delay and a reorganization in the way that CMS and in the data that labs have to report, in the private payer data that labs have to report to CMS, which will determine rates in 2027 and beyond. So as of right now, that's where we're at. I know that ACLA and other trade organizations are lobbying to get a new bill inserted or passed into healthcare legislation that could happen at the end of this year, which there isn't that much time left, or hopefully, if not then in January, that would delay those 15% rate cuts to the clinical lab fee schedule, give a longer term delay, freezing rates for a few years, and also reorganizing the way that the information and the way that the information that labs have to report to CMS for determining future rates. So we should know the outcome of that, obviously, by the end of January. But as scheduled right now, there are 15% rate cuts for 800 different test codes on the clinical lab fee schedule. And then lastly, just very in passing, I'll mention that another big piece of news lately has been that Anthem now has plans to institute a 10% penalty on hospitals that use out-of-network laboratories. So the hospital would be penalized 10% if they use an out-of-network laboratory. That becomes effective January 2026, and I'll just give you that brief warning or heads up. We have more details in the latest issue of Laboratory Economics, which anyone on this call if you send me an email, I'll be happy to send you a free sample of the latest issue, which covers some of these topics here. in more detail. And with that, I think we're ready to move on to the next slide. Okay, so now on to digital pathology. What's going on with Medicare reimbursement of digital pathology? And once again, to emphasize once more, all other payers, or nearly all other payers, copy what CMS does. And if CMS, right now, CMS is not reimbursing for the cost of digitizing pathology slides. And but if they were, or someday when they do, then that would prompt nearly all other payers to follow suit. So that's why Medicare, again, Medicare is so important, because all the other payers copy or base their reimbursement and their coverage on what Medicare does. And right now, Medicare is not reimbursing for the digitization of pathology slides. But if and when they do, that'll be a major event, because it'll prompt all other payers to do the same. And the reason, a few years ago, Medicare stated that they might reimburse for digitizing slides if they saw that utilization of digital pathology was high enough to warrant their attention. So what they did was they instituted, or they created 43 monitoring codes or add-on codes that labs are supposed to be using to report to Medicare their utilization of digital pathology, whether or not they're digitizing their slides. And Medicare will use this information they haven't stated the exact level they need to see before they'll consider reimbursing digitizing slides. But they have stated that they need to see higher utilization before they consider formalizing those 43 add-on digital pathology codes and reimbursing for them. And if you could move to the next slide, please. So what myself and laboratory economics have been doing the past 2 years has been monitoring. So what is the utilization of these 43 digital pathology add-on codes? Because it's important, because we want to see utilization increasing because so that Medicare will consider formalizing these codes and establishing reimbursement for them. So there's 43 codes. A few weeks ago, we analyzed the volume of services submitted to Medicare for these 43 codes, compared with the volume of the CPT code that they're related to. So, for example, 88305 has an add-on code, and if you have digitized a slide for 88305, and then the pathologist has read the interpretation from a digital image that you digitized, then that would show utilization of digital pathology for 88305. And they've done it for 88305, 88304, all of the major pathology codes. So anyway, we analyzed what's the actual utilization for all these 43 codes. And what we found was labs had only, and this is 2024 data, the latest data, 2024. What we found was, for these 43 codes, they were only utilized or reported 179,892 reports. Labs reported utilizing those codes out of 16.4 million eligible services, which indicates a 1.1% adoption rate of digital pathology, which I am almost certain is understating the adoption rate. And the problem is that labs have no incentive to go through the trouble of reporting any of these 43 codes each time they digitize a slide, because there is no reimbursement, and there's extra effort and modifications that need to be made to their LIS and billing systems in order to be able to report the utilization of these add-on codes. And before I move further, Amber, I don't know if you or Ed, if you wanted to give instructions for the poll.
Yeah, so we do have a user poll that should pop up on your screen right now. It's just an exercise for us to better understand the market, what the who's adopting digital pathology, how much of the market is adopting that. Are you reporting on it? If you're not reporting, is there any, what's the reason for not reporting it? And if you're not adopting, what's the reason you're hesitant to adopt a digital pathology? So this will help us and maybe topics that we can cover also in future webinars.
So yeah, I guess here's my question to Ed is as people participate in this poll is labs are only reporting as of 2024 around 1% of utilization of digital pathology when performing 88305, 88304, 88307, 88341, 88342, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which I'm almost certain that's underreporting. So my question for Ed is, why aren't labs reporting to Medicare using those new add-on codes? Why aren't they reporting and showing greater utilization? Because if they did, that would increase the chances of Medicare taking a look at these codes and considering whether or not they will formalize them and give reimbursement.
Yeah, so what we're hearing in the market is that reporting is hard, and it takes time, and also if it's not reimbursed, labs are considering that time that they could be spending doing something more beneficial to the lab and the lab bottom line. So I believe that's one of the main reasons. There could be other reasons. We're hoping with the poll that we're going to find out a little bit more on what's the hesitance or what's what causing labs to report less than what they're reading digitally. So, and hoping that start to tackle these problems.
Is there something in particular that makes the reporting difficult?
So there are a number of things. I mean, definitely it's the tools that you're using that should help you report that and report it accurately. It's not just reporting; you have to know what you need to report. You have to understand all the regulation, and you have to be able to report that accurately from a number of systems. So you wanna find out whether you're doing your digital which cases that you're reading digitally applicable to be reported. You want to make sure that you add the right add-on codes for the test that you're running or you're reading digitally, and you want to make sure that all these systems are talking to each other, and make sure that they're all that information is captured and recorded and reported successfully. So that might be one of the reasons where things are a little bit difficult and hard to capture, causing it not to be easy to report that. So one of the things that we've done at NovoPath to kind of facilitate that, we look at ourselves as not just an LIS provider, but we look at ourselves as a partner and a driving force for digital adoption. So a number of things that we've done throughout the past few years to help assist the labs report their digital add-ons. The most important aspect is obviously being able to integrate with your digital viewer. So we've done that early on. We're integrated with most of the major digital viewers, and that gives us the ability to identify cases that are applicable for future reimbursement, which is the first important step in reporting. We're also automatically adding the associated add-on codes electronically and passing that information to the RCM system. So that takes out the burden off of your pathologist, off of the billing team, the coding team. They don't need to review every single case to make sure that all the codes are added and make sure that read the report, make sure that this report has been digitally read or digitally diagnosed. So that helps the lab, and we've noticed that it does encourage the lab to increase the reporting adoption rates. I would encourage every lab administrator today or a pathologist running a lab to talk to with your providers. They're your partners. Ask them how they can help you with reporting. We believe that every LIS should be able to assist and help their labs in integrating with either the digital viewers or the RCM systems. Our goal, not just to help our partners, but also to make sure that the industry, the market itself, is moving forward. Given digital is the future of pathology, so we want to make sure that labs are reporting their adoption. The CMS is taking note of that, and regulations hopefully will follow soon, and hopefully in 2026 we start to see some movement in that direction.
And if I could just interject something here, so 1.1%. CMS hasn't said, we need to see 5% utilization of these digital pathology add-on codes, or 10% or 20%. They haven't said what the cutoff point is before they will consider establishing formal reimbursement for digitizing slides. But we know it's not 1.1%. That's too low. And as your poll, as the poll just indicated, the biggest hurdle that labs and pathology groups have towards investing in buying scanners, in software, image management software systems, there's a cost involved with employees who need to load and maintain and unload the scanners. There's a cost involved with storage of the digitized images. So there's a lot of costs involved. And if at some point in the future there could be a few dollars of reimbursement for every time you digitize a slide or bill for an 88305 that has been interpreted using digitized images, I really think the market would really take off. I mean, there are labs today investing in digital pathology, investing in the scanners, the employees, the software systems, the storage of the images, and what they are counting on is that there will be reimbursement, number one, in the future, and number two, the other return on investment for investing in digital pathology is the ability to run AI software tools on the images that you have digitized, which can speed and increase the number of slides that a pathologist can read every day. So there's two forms of payback when you invest in digital pathology. One is the hopefully eventual reimbursement by Medicare and other payers. And number two, you can't run AI unless you have digitized a slide. AI requires a digitized image. And once you have a digitized image, you can run AI software programs on these images, and they can boost pathologist productivity and their ability to read slides more quickly and more slides per day. So I just add that. Right. And just to reiterate, CMS is not going to make these add-on codes permanent Category 1 CPT codes with reimbursement until we see until labs report greater utilization. And then just again, a lot of this is reiterating, but labs are helping themselves if they can go through the trouble to report labs that are using digital pathology really need to report to Medicare their utilization. That requires modification of their LIS and their claims that they submit to CMS. Um, and they're in the meantime, many big health systems, academic medical centers, and commercial laboratories are investing in digital pathology with the hope that there'll be reimbursement, but also with the plans to apply AI to these artificial intelligence to the digitized images to help increase pathologist productivity.
Yep. Thank you so much, John David. I believe the message today is adoption is important, and reporting on that adoption is as important as the digitizing your slides. So if you are already digitizing your slides, if you are investing in that, please, we do encourage you to do the reporting. That's the only way. It's catch-22 situation. CMS is not going to move forward unless they see the adoption rates increase. And although we're seeing more and more labs do adopt digital, so the numbers are not adding up. So we do encourage our partners, our labs, our audience to please go ahead and start reporting on your digital slides. And if you do need assistance, if you have a question on the actual adoption process, how do you think about it? How do you start driving how do you introduce digital pathology within your lab? If you don't already have that, you can either reach out to John David or reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy to help you. Talk to your LIS provider, talk to your RCM provider, your digital viewer provider, find out ways they can help you. We do believe that the tools and the software that you're using are going to be your best partner, your best way to adopt that, to make it easy and to facilitate the for you. So we're almost at the end of our webinar today. If you have any Q&A, we know that this is a topic that we probably can keep talking about for a few hours. So, but we want to leave some room for our audience to ask their questions. If you have any questions or you want to ask John David any follow-ups, you can leave your questions in the webinar chat, or you can reach directly to him or to any of us afterwards. But we'll be more than happy to take a few questions right now. All right, so John David, a question for you. You've mentioned that we don't know what the magic number is for the adoption. Is there any indication as to when that would be more publicly shared or available for people to at least a follow-up and like a target that they can aim for?
No, CMS has not specified, whether they need to see 5%, 10%, 15%, 20% utilization before they'll consider reimbursement of digital pathology, the digitization of the slides. If forced to guess, I would think it would have to be at least 10%. That's my own personal guess. So right now, as of 2024, we were at 1.1%, which is probably understated because a lot of labs haven't gone through the difficulty to upgrade their reporting systems so that they can report these add-on codes. But 1%, and if I'm right, if the cutoff point or the minimum that CMS would need to see is 10%, if I'm right about that, we still have a long way to go. But on the other hand, I speak with and report on health systems every month. It seems like every month there's one or two major health systems or academic medical centers that are installing digital pathology systems, and I'm hopeful that in 2000, when the 2025 numbers become available later next year, that we could see utilization of 2, 3, 4, or 4%, or maybe 4 or 5%. There could be a big jump coming up soon, but uh, again, that's not going to happen until labs go through the trouble to report that data to CMS.
As I guess we did answer one of the questions already on when the 2025 utilization data would be available.
Yeah, I could tell you the 2025 utilization data will be available um, mid to later next year. So CMS isn't on a fixed time schedule when they release this information, but generally mid to later in 2026, the information should become available, and that would be the 2025 information. So there's always a big time lag, but it's the best that's available.
That's awesome. Another question, who in the lab is usually the biggest champion for digital pathology?
Oh, which kind of employee or pathologist? I'll tell you the truth. It's usually it's usually a pathologist who maybe is a little bit bored with reading, doing their job of reading slides, and they want to get involved in something a little bit more exciting or future oriented. So it's usually a pathologist at a lab who has the capacity in their head to want to take on a new project, and that looks towards the future. And so I would say it's usually a pathologist champion who has an interest in data and artificial intelligence, et cetera, and is looking on, like I said, maybe might be a little bit bored with their role of reading slides and wants to take on some additional responsibilities, something a little bit more exciting. Um, and I would just point out one other thing, and that is uh, even though there's no reimbursement from Medicare and almost all other payers, you might find some payers here or there that are reimbursing for digital pathology, but that's usually because they don't know what they're reimbursing for. And but generally, there's no reimbursement, CMS or other payers. But there is these pathologist champions who take on the leadership towards installing and getting a pathology lab involved in digital pathology. Um, the biggest return on investment is the use of artificial intelligence. So even without the reimbursement, there is still a return on investment if you have a plan to introduce artificial intelligence, and if that is able to increase, a pathologist's ability to read more slides per day. That right now is the biggest return on investment. And uh, again, the key there is to actually make the full transition to as much as you can to digitizing your slides, and then to get the AI running on it as quickly as possible. And I would just point out one other thing. Over the past year, one of the biggest, another reason why pathologists it's mostly pathologists are interested in introducing or getting digital pathology in their labs is their ability to read slides from home. So, I've heard of a lot of health systems and academic medical centers who are offering pathologists the opportunity to read slides from their home, 1 or 2 days per week. And that is a huge draw. Everyone likes the idea of doing that, including pathologists. And so I would just point out the digital pathology can allow pathologists to read slides from home. Some labs are offering that, especially it's especially important if you're trying to recruit new pathologists especially the younger people, are uh, very interested in having the ability to work from home. And if you can offer that 1 or 2 days per week, for example, that's a huge, pathologists see that as a tremendous benefit, just like anyone else would.
Yeah. And we've seen that that it does give the labs an edge. So even though you may not see a direct reimbursement for those for digital pathology, there is a high return for labs that have adopted that. There's marketing aspect to it, sales aspect to it, as well as you had mentioned overall morale within the pathologist on board. It does give them a lot more room. So from retaining good talent, skillful talent, it could be a big edge for a lab to give them a competitive edge. One final question. Is there a time delay from when that utilization is reached and CMS
Uh,
to put in the reimbursement in place?
Again, that's very hard to predict. I, you got to see the utilization above at least 5 or 10% before I would think that CMS would start considering that. And once they do start considering, if and when some point in the future, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 years from now, I'm not sure how long it's going to take. I'm sure CAP, the College of American Pathologists, will be very much involved in helping set the or helping guide CMS to what they think the reimbursement for digitizing a slide will be. But again, it's a very good question, but I don't have an answer for. I would think we need to get to utilization of at least 5 or 10% at the very minimum, and then at that point, it might take a year or two or so before CMS establishes formal Category 1 codes and reimbursement for digitizing slides. So it's not gonna happen next year or the year after. It's gonna be a few years from now. But it's just guesswork trying to predict which year that might be.
All right, awesome. Well, I think we are at the end of our webinar today. So I'd like to thank all our attendees and thank John David Clip so much for making the time for us to be with us today. And we're more than excited to see you everyone in 2026 and see all the work that we're going to be doing together in